I've got a riddle for you. What do an illness and an approaching hurricane have in common? Well, the advice is pretty much the same. It's gonna get worse before it gets better. And that's pretty much what Mercury retrograde at the end of 2020 feels like. I mean, it felt like we were on our way. Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto had gone direct. We were seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And Mercury retrograde comes in just like an uninvited guest at the party, and everybody goes, "Are you kidding me right now?" I'm Erin. This is Queen Bee Tarot. Thank you so much for joining me. This is your detailed astrology report for the week of October 18th to the 24th. Yeah, we've got Mercury retrograde, but it's not that bad, I promise. And the reason for that is that every time Mercury goes retrograde, it goes retrograde in a different sign. And if it was retrograde in something like Gemini, oh yeah, it would be miscommunications off the chart. Networking between computers wouldn't work. Meetings would go wrong. Connections with friends would go wrong. That's a typical Mercury retrograde. But if it's in Taurus, for example, we might have miscommunications around money or paychecks, that sort of thing. The stock market might be affected. This time with Mercury being retrograde in Scorpio, it's like house cleaning for your soul. It is a time to dig deep, and we can really tap into the Scorpio energy when we let ourselves remember things and feel things deeply, and we really dig for those inner truths, and we let our actual spirit and soul and heart talk instead of telling it to stop. So Mercury retrograde, yes, gets a bad rap, but this time it's super, super useful because Mercury retrograde in Scorpio is going to have us asking why. And why is a really useful question. Toddlers use it a lot and it might drive us crazy, but why is the question that directs growth and progress. And if it feels like you've got a glass ceiling above you and you just can't break through and you're not sure what the problem is, the next 4 weeks, 3 weeks are going to be awesome for that. We had a new moon last week, at the end of last week, and that sets the tone for 4 weeks of a focus on all things Libra. So new moon in Libra is going to be all about new beginnings when it comes to seeking balance, because Libra is the scales. And also having a look at our relationships, any give and take of energy, and any agreements, contracts, legal situations, all things Libra. And so we've got this 4-week tone for all things Libra, compounded by Mercury retrograde in Scorpio. And so we're going to be rethinking all that we believe. Why do we believe it? Because anything we believe motivates us to action. And in the realm of action, we've got Mars retrograde in Aries. We've been talking about that for a while. People are feeling feisty, but Mercury retrograde is going to bring a tone of asking, what is it you're fighting for and why? Why? The new moon in Libra cycle is going to also bring our attention to matters of equality and fairness and justice. So it's going to be a really, really interesting month. I am going to go over a couple of long-term things that affect us for a few weeks, and then I'm going to get into the details of each day of the week. So I'll make this quick. Change is uncomfortable, and we naturally avoid discomfort at all costs, but anytime that we are squeezed into an uncomfortable situation, like the astrology of this month, let's look at it as being useful, and then we'll get the most out of it, right? Two things that impede our progress, two things that hold us back from making the changes that we want to make are, number one, realizing that there's a problem, and number two, seeing any other options. So realizing there's a problem, sometimes we don't even realize. We're so used to putting up with things the way that they are that we don't even realize it could be better. Or maybe we're afraid to let go of what we have because we think that that's the best it's going to get. Well, this month is going to test you in the sense that you start questioning what it is that you're really, really, really putting your energy and focus and attention into. Bringing reality in is a concept of Venus in Virgo. So that's another long-term influence we've got for a few more weeks still. And when Venus is in Virgo, it's going to bring our attention to the reality of the situation. And we've got this interesting opposition between Venus over here in Virgo, directly opposite Neptune in Pisces. So Neptune is retrograde in Pisces, so super dreamy, a little bit out of touch, and our clarity is clouded. Our ability to see things is really obscured right now. But Venus in Virgo comes to the rescue, bringing reality in, sometimes crashing right down. But reality is really important. Noticing those red flags and not ignoring them. Paying attention to those details, double checking emails and texts before you hit send. Those are all really, really useful, helpful things to do. The other thing that's really important about this dynamic is questioning the expectations that we have. So that's expectations for ourselves, for others, and for maybe a particular outcome with a choice that we're making. So with Neptune in Pisces, and the other thing that's happening in the beginning of the week is Venus trine Jupiter and Mars square Jupiter with the moon in Sagittarius. We may have the most unbelievably unrealistic expectations, and we will feel disappointed all the time or frustrated if that's the case. So if our expectations are too high, we're never going to feel satisfied. But lowering our expectations too much means that we're never going to grow and we're never going to change. So the sweet spot is somewhere in the middle. So this balance, this pull, this give and take between Venus and Virgo, bringing in reality, and Neptune and Pisces going, I want the best, everything can be awesome and beautiful. There's a good middle ground between the two of them. So seeking that balance is a great way to bring in this new moon in Libra cycle. The other long-term sort of influence that's happening right now is Sun square Saturn. So the Sun right now is in a 90-degree angle with Saturn. And that's another anchor to reality. But the problem with this anchor is that we might be too pessimistic. You know, we might have reasonable options ahead of us, but if we have decided that they're just bad options, we're not even going to try them, then we've closed the door to change or progress. So being too stuck in, too stuck in reality is kind of a bad way of putting it. Being too hard on yourself or putting too many limitations are all self-limiting beliefs that are going to hold you back from making the changes you need. So again, finding that sweet spot is really going to be the essence of this month. So Mercury retrograde in Scorpio can be an awesome thing. It's all about learning to work with the influence. Let's get specific about the days of the week. Sunday, we do start with the moon in Scorpio. And so our emotions are going to be really all over the place. We're going to be feeling things deeply. We might be triggered to feel vengeful or jealous. So really watch those feelings. It's also a great time to be creative and thoughtful and dreamy. And the moon makes a lot of really good sextiles, so those are helpful angles on Sunday as well. There's a dynamic happening as we start the week with potential ego games or convincing ourselves that we're some sort of hero or martyr and everybody else is doing us wrong. It's a common theme right now with this whole Venus-Neptune dynamic. But when the moon moves into Sagittarius on Monday, we are going to have a boost of energy. And depending on how grounded we are, that boost of energy might compel us to double down on really bad decisions. So that Venus, Venus trine Jupiter and Mars square Jupiter. Mars square Jupiter is going to make us feel like we are motivated to accomplish things, and that drive to overcome is going to be really strong. And then Venus trine Jupiter is going to go, yeah, I believe in you. You can do this. So that's a great influence as long as you're rooted in reality. So again, don't double down on bad decisions. It's a terrible time to ignore red flags. Make sure all your details are in order. As the week starts up, we start to intensify this dynamic of Mercury retrograde directly opposite Uranus. Now, Uranus can be like that friend that says what needs to be said and urges us to make those changes we need to make. If we are not willing to take those steps ourselves, sometimes Uranus comes in and just makes it happen. So if it feels like things are falling apart right now, have a look at maybe how spirit or universe might be helping you out without you realizing it. So if things are falling apart, try not to get too worked up with it. With the Mercury retrograde, there's a tendency to get stuck in our thoughts and get really down on ourselves, or have the kind of narrative like, this thing always happens to me, I always screw things up. Those are self-limiting beliefs, you guys. Don't get stuck there. Again, find the sweet spot, boost yourself up, be your own cheerleader, and encourage yourself to just keep on trying. Keep on trying. Keep those eyes, hearts, and spirits open, and keep on trying. Don't give up. The intensity of the beginning of the week is definitely going to be something where you're going to want to avoid crazy conversations or difficult people. But if something really does need to be said, as we get towards the end of the week, it does get to be a better time. So Wednesday, we've got the moon moving into Capricorn. So our emotions are kind of going to come centering down to the ground. We're going to be able to breathe again. That intensity is going to pass. That's Wednesday. And Venus is going to trine Pluto. So we're going to be in a place of being okay with dealing with yucky feelings and potentially ready to talk to a loved one or a partner about what we're experiencing. Fruitful time for working with a therapist or really processing stuff that's been weighing you down for a while. So that's Wednesday. Thursday, the sun moves into Scorpio. We are officially entering Scorpio season. And yes, feel those things deeply. Allow yourself to shed the skin of the old, let go of the past year, and really integrate all these lessons that we've learned. So this is a time of deep transformation and growth. Let's see, Thursday also, the moon joins up with Pluto and Jupiter. So we're going to start to really be hyper aware as the end of the week comes of any ways in which we are held back from achieving the abundance that we hope for or the freedom that we desire. And we're also going to be hyper aware of any of that darkness that's unresolved. That's the Pluto, that's the hidden stuff. So again, the best way to work with this month, this week, is to really just let your shadow side talk and do your best to work through anything that comes up with love and compassion and just holding space and listening. The moon moves into Aquarius on Friday, and just before it does, it's going to meet up with Saturn, really bringing our attention to any ways that we are restricted, held back, or stuck in the past. So our awareness is really going to clarify at the end of the week, whereas in the beginning of the week, we might feel a little bit batty. Moon in Aquarius also helps us kind of detach from those emotions and take more of an observer perspective rather than feeling immersed in our experience. So profoundly better end of the week than the beginning, you guys, I promise. Like I said, things often get worse before they get better, but the only way through is through. Saturday, Venus trine Saturn. So we're going to start to really make peace with our progress, with where we are and where we've come from. And we're going to start to really envision a realistic plan for the future rather than feeling so lost. So just one quick thing with Mercury retrograde in Scorpio, opposite Uranus, there is the potential for accidental slips of the tongue, saying what we really think, even though we've been holding back for a really long time. There's the potential for explosive interactions, anything that's been basically waiting to blow up. If you're not careful with your words, it's definitely going to happen. So just really be mindful of your words. And also with the new moon cycle in Libra, there's a focus on justice and karmic balance. So if we try to accomplish something by ignoring ethics or ignoring morals, our karma with Mercury retrograde in Scorpio is going to come right back to us so fast. So universe spirit is definitely going to make it super clear to you over the next few weeks whether or not you are on your highest path or a path that could use some adjustment. So thank you so much for joining me. This is Erin here at Queen Bee Tarot. Go check out the horoscopes I'm posting for the next week and like and follow for all of my videos. Bye guys.